Mr. President, after 52 years of war, more than a quarter million of people dead, more than 7 million of people displaced. Is this the beginning of peace in Colombia?
Yes, it's definitely the beginning of the construction of peace. After 52 years of war, there's a lot of things to do to reconstruct, and we had to end the conflict. What we're signing the 2nd of October is the end of the conflict, which will allow us, hopefully all the country united, to build a peaceful country for our kids and our grandchildren.
Next week, Colombians will have to go and vote to approve or reject what was accorded with FARC. What happens if people say no?
If people say no, we will go back 6 years and continue the war with FARC and suffer the consequences of this war, which have been tremendous. But I am very confident that the Colombian people will make an intelligent decision and they will say yes.
Critics of this agreement say that it leads to impunity because leaders of FARC will not pay time behind bars. Is this impunity?
There's no impunity. There is something called the transitional justice, which is acceptable by the world. The Treaty of Rome is the base of this transitional justice, and all the people responsible for crimes against humanity and war crimes, atrocious war crimes, will be investigated, will be judged, will be condemned and sanctioned. So there is no impunity. What happens is that in a peace process like this one, it's impossible to have a perfect peace, perfect justice. But I think this is the best agreement possible, and the best agreement possible to allow Colombians to live in peace.
You know what many people say, that it's easier to make war rather than make peace. What do you think is the biggest challenge that Colombia is going to face after this peace agreement?
Well, the biggest challenge is to re-educate the Colombians for peace, to teach them that you have to dialogue, you have to speak, you have to negotiate instead of killing each other simply because you think differently. There's a very important spiritual component, and also we have a tremendous challenge in taking the state to these very large and very rich regions of Colombia, which have never been, which have never had any benefits or presence of the state because of the conflict. And so there's an enormous organizational challenge to bring development to these regions. It's like the West in the U.S. It has to be conquered.
The fuel of this conflict, or most of the fuel of this conflict, has been drug trafficking, and it's an underlying problem here in this country. What needs to be done in order to avoid other groups to take over that business?
Well, we have been the country who has suffered the most in this war against drugs that the world declared more than 40 years ago. We have made the highest, the biggest effort and paid the highest cost. And we have learned. And for the first time, because of this agreement, because the FARC will not be defending the coca plantations and with snipers or personal mines, they will be helping the state to convince the communities, and they are easily convinced, I've been speaking to them, to change the illegal crops for legal crops. So the big challenge is to take the state there and offer an alternative crop for these peasants who are simply surviving by planting coca leaves.
We in the States are less than 2 months away from the presidential elections. Who do you consider is the best, who would be the best ally for Colombia? Mr. Donald Trump or Mrs. Hillary Clinton?
What I've learned, Luis Carlos, during 6 years as president and many years as a public servant, not to interfere in the internal affairs of any country, and especially not to interfere in their elections. What I can tell you is, I know Hillary Clinton. She's been a good friend of Colombia. Her husband was the architect of Plan Colombia, which has been probably the most successful bipartisan foreign policy initiative that the U.S. has launched in the recent past. I don't know Mr. Trump. I've never spoken to him, so that's what I can tell you, and not anymore.
Mr. President, thanks for your time and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.